Monday, August 3rd, 2020 board work session. Item number 1, announcements. Roll call, please, Mrs. Yowie.
Daniel Antonelli.
Here.
Trent Bryant.
Here.
Linda Burks. Here. Mitch DeLong.
Here.
Doug Dickerson.
Here.
Sharon Gustin. Julie Hall.
Here.
Jed Hamburger.
Here.
William Howard.
Here.
Roger Messler. Gail Perkins. Doug Gressig.
Here.
Kimberly Voorhees. Here. Diane West. Here. Derek Worthington.
Here.
Amy Yowie. Here.
Thank you. Subject B, public comments on agenda items only. We did not receive any public comments on agenda items. So subject C is meeting minutes.
The meeting minutes were posted as of the July 21 meeting. Or I'm sorry, the public comments, the response to public comments.
From the July.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Meeting minutes for July or for June 11th work session, June 11th voting meeting, and July 21st board meeting. Board, is there any questions? Any discussion on any of that? Okay, thank you. Subject D is announcements. Mr. Hamburger.
I do have a couple. So Friday late in the day, they just released the Title IX mandated changes in board docs. So we'll be working on that. So those will be coming on the next agenda. To be honest, I haven't had any time to get through all those and get them onto this work session agenda. So I'm sorry for that, but the deadline is right after our second August meeting. So, and we are mandated to have those put through and done prior to the start of the school year. So that'll be on the next agenda. So whenever I get that stuff prepped and ready, I'll push that out in an email to all of you guys so that you have time to review it. I know that it's going to be short and not enough time, but I'll do the best I can. And we did send a survey out with the one call to parents tonight, asking them if they would prefer in-person instruction or virtual instruction, just so that we can get a baseline of how many kids we're going to have in the building, so that that'll help us to design some of our lunch plans and things like that, and what we're going to have to do technology-wise and how much technology we're going to have to get in the kids' hands. So it's just, that's all I have for right now, but that's to help us put our actual plan together. We have the plan, but we need to know some numbers now, so as we move forward. So
Anyone else? Comments? Okay. Item 2 is the executive session to discuss personnel matters. We will not going into executive session. 3, committee of the whole, policy, finance, and facilities. Policy, under policy we have a number of items. First one is contract for emotional support.
Yep, so this is our contract. Eldred is the provider, so this is what we've done in the past.
Annual renewal.
Yep, annual renewal, nothing's changed.
Questions? Okay, moving on, the annual SAP letter of agreement.
Yep, so Potter County Human Services is who we have as our SAP coordinator, same as we've done in the past as well.
SAP stands for?
Student Assistance Program.
Okay.
Mental health services, as well as a broad spectrum of other services that the county can provide. It's a direct connection to the school district and to the students for Potter County Human Services.
Questions? Board? None? The middle high school handbook changes.
Yep, so made a few tweaks to it, but it's attached in the executive content.
And there was some artwork attached to our agendas, and that's the proposed cover, right?
Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
So on the one page where they have the bells, are they still adding the stuff that they took out? There's a lot missing. It doesn't say morning and for breakfast, time they're supposed to go to their lockers, doesn't list PM detentions, it doesn't list the dismissal of all, it doesn't list the bus part for CPC, but I see they have it on there, but are they going to be including that other part too?
Julie, can you answer that one?
I probably can. I couldn't hear it. It was jumbled. I heard something about lockers and breakfast. So if you could repeat the question, I'll answer for you.
If you look at last year's, if you look at last year's book on page 3, it lists morning detention, breakfast, going to their lockers. Then at the end of it, it lists PM detention. That stuff is nice to have for parents, so parents are aware when their kids may or may not be there for detention and how they have to plan appropriately. So I just wondered, are you going to be adding the other stuff? Is this just an add to that page to change certain parts, or is this all you were including on that page?
That was all I was planning on keeping. Breakfast is going to be grab and go to your first period because we can't have the entire student body in the cafeteria. So breakfast is out. We really, the entire year last year, didn't have any morning detention people. So I didn't find that useful to have. All of the detentions were after school in the PM. So I eliminated that information. It can go back in. I didn't find it to be practical.
Well, for breakfast, you may have grab and go now, but hopefully the pandemic will be over at some point and you will have a breakfast again. So I just think that it might be something you want to add back in there because
Sure.
won't be listening
Yep.
right now.
Yep, and we can certainly add that back in.
So I would like to add that if it changes and we get out of this COVID situation, so I think we should leave it as is until that changes, and then we can update that and put that in the board motion.
Yep.
All right, with you, Julie?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
You don't want to put the detention in there, you're afraid no one has to.
They behave themselves, we don't need to do it.
Somebody's going to have
That's what we're looking
detention
for.
this year, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice for parents to see that.
Okay.
Is there anything else? Those are good points. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
2021 IU9 Virtual Academy.
So currently we have no students enrolled in the IU9's virtual academy, but that could happen at any time, so we still have to be able to offer that. So that's why the agreement's still in place.
E, Northern Tier CAC Head Start Agreement.
Yep, that's our pre-K program agreement. It's same as it's been in the years past.
These agreements that we've had tonight, there's no cost to us for those. And then F, 2021 fundraisers. There was a list attached to our agendas.
Obviously, that's a tentative list, right? Things can change based on the restrictions, but I would like to approve them the best we can so that if we do get that opening, we're covered and we can move forward with it. If we don't get that as an opening, then we'll have to make some adaptations based on the guidelines. But to cover us, I think we'd be ahead to approve it the way that it is. And then if we have the opportunity to do it, then we can move forward.
My only question on the things are, you don't have the list of the costs and substitute, you just have yes or no, so I'd like the cost on there. And also, what you have for the Pittsburgh trip, which I think is a great thing, you just have listed the cost, you have district and PTO. So there should be some kind of cost associated with the district if the district is part of it. Paper ticket, I know they get some of the gifts and they buy t-shirts. They have
I'm
loans
pretty
that they get.
confident. Mr. Dickerson, do you want to weigh in on that with your EPTO paying for tickets for the Pirate game?
Pittsburgh trip.
Yeah, all that stuff. And right now, I mean, we don't even plan on really going this year the way things are. We do have the option to in the spring. They did kind of let us know that we did have the option of going this fall, but if any time we'll be going this spring. But the cost, there's really the only district costs. Actually, I don't remember there's not a district cost.
They've
There's
never,
not,
the,
no, because the EPTO pays for it, and then the people that go buy the tickets, and all that is included in the shirt. I mean, there's there's really no cost to the Pittsburgh trip to the district.
Who pays for the rooms? The EPTO covers all that, the cost of the rooms?
Nope, the family. So like anybody that wants to go would pay for that. Like there's a cost breakdown. There's a sheet for X amount. Like if you want to stay, then it's this amount. Like if you're buying just tickets, it's this amount. If you're going, like for example, we were going to go to the Carnegie Music or Science Museum. That is this amount. So there's like a cost breakdown depending on what you wanted to do.
I remember I did that also, but it says district on there, so I assume the district is putting the bill for something. Maybe.
Well, I mean, obviously, we are paying for Mr. Dickerson to be out of the office. You know what I mean? So it was kind of,
Yeah, but I mean, other than that, there's no cost to the district for the Pittsburgh trip.
Okay.
Thank you, Doug.
Yep, no problem.
Anything else? Okay, thank you. The 2021 bus van routes and drivers.
Yep. So we had the drivers do their mandated reporter training, so we've got that list moving forward. I got a meeting with Muccios next week to discuss the transportation and how we're going to work that out, because we've been waiting for some more guidance on transportation. So with what we have currently, we're going to run our transportation routes the best we can and try and get as many parents to drop their kids off as possible, to limit our number of students that are on the bus. I'm going to meet with Muccios about doing temperature screenings as students would get onto the bus. The difficult part is turning a kid away at the bus stop if they're an 8-year-old and those parents aren't home. So to the best we can, we'll try and screen as much as possible early so that we don't have to quarantine an entire busload of students and send them all to be tested. But the guidelines also say that if a student isn't within 6 feet of a person for 15 minutes at a time, then you'd be okay. So it's a toss-up of whether we would have, playing it safe, I think we would have to quarantine the entire bus if there is a student that shows symptoms as they enter the building. We would screen kids as they get off the bus, but that's part of the meeting, as well as the routes that we had previously. This year, we don't have any students at one of our charter schools, so that route will be able to be eliminated this year, which will be a...
Did you think about having the parents cover sport what they're playing out?
Mm-hmm.
They're actually having the parents sign on a sheet, and they're having the parents check the temperatures at home.
Yep.
Which kind of makes sense, because then the child's not coming, they're going through it, and then a parent coming and pick them up. Did you consider doing that?
Yeah, so that's part of our plan too. We're going to put it out to parents that we would love for you to be able to test your kids before you send them to school, but we can't promise that that's always going to happen. So we would like to almost double dip and make sure that we're covered as much as we can to be able to do that, because there's a lot of kids that come to schools with fevers currently, right? Pump full of Tylenol and everything like that. So to the best of our ability, we'll let the parents screen and we'll screen and see what we can do to prevent it as much as possible.
Questions? Anything else? Okay, moving on. Finance, resolution for the superintendent or superintendent authorization electronic signatures.
Yep, so right now I have to formally sign a document, scan it, send it back to whoever I'm writing the grants for. This will give me the ability within e-grants and all of the e-grant systems, PCCDs, PDs, the whole spectrum, safe schools, federal programs, there's a bunch of them. This will give me the opportunity to click a box and do an e-signature instead of scanning documents, and simplifies the process. PD is moving to all e-signatures currently for funding allotments, so this will help us out in that process. Just a formality.
Concerns, questions about that? That'll make things easier.
Mhm.
All right. Lance Newton Scholarship Fund.
So the family had asked that we take in donations instead of purchasing flowers and things of that nature for the service, to develop a scholarship fund. Currently what we're doing is just accepting the deposits right now. We're going to hold on to that until they develop a trust. Once they develop the trust, then we'll work with them to be able to deposit that money into the trust, and then they can do it from there. They were just looking for somebody in the short term to be able to help collect that money for them while they had everything else going on. So we're just lending a hand at this point. I would say that we need to approve this just to be safe, but it could be something that comes into our general fund account and then goes out. But I would like to approve it just to be safe.
But that's something that we're going to get audited on, because we couldn't allow the students to have their athletics. And then just for them to do that at no cost, they will receive the money and deposit it.
Yep.
So, I mean, that might be something you need to contact.
It will be part of the audit, but I think it's worth doing. It's just the right thing
I'm
to
not
do
saying
right
that,
now.
but
So
I'm just saying we couldn't do it for
it
this
won't be
year.
a problem.
So you might need-
That's fundraising. This is a trust. So as long as I have a trust document to go along with those funds, that's why we're currently just holding on to them. We're not cashing any of the checks. And so we just want to make sure the board and the district understands that we are extending that, and that you're approving that we hold on to these. And then we would not keep them unless we have the trust document worked up and a scholarship would be designed and that kind of thing. And then it would run straight through our scholarship fund. It would not be in our general fund. It would be the scholarship fund.
Sorry, my fault. Any questions?
Okay, thank you. The IDEA agreement.
Yep, formal agreement with the IU providing special education services that will abide by all the IDEA guidelines, and that they will as well.
Any questions? Very good. Moving on to facilities, awarding of bids.
Did receive some bids, 2 bids for the Kubota tractor, as you can see, as well as 1 for the Silver. No bids were received for the roll-in cooler, the roll-in warming unit, or the fencing. We'd like to request to give away on a first-come, first-served basis those things that we didn't receive bids for. Somebody wants them, come pick them up.
Questions on that?
Is there a time frame on when we would scrap them? We would hold them for how many days? And
We'll see if we get anything in the first week, and I would say a week, maybe 2 tops. If
give them 15 days after.
I'd rather get rid of it out before school starts and get that taken care of ahead of time. So I'd much rather give it a week than 2, but we'll give it a week and see if we get anything. So,
Okay.
Yep.
Very good. Moving on to subject B, curriculum, personnel, extracurricular. Under curriculum, there's emergency instruction time template.
Yep, so this was a mandate from PD that just came out that we have to develop a plan to make sure that we're going to meet our 180-day requirements and our 900 and 990 requirements, whether we're virtual or in person. That comes from the federal level, so they can't waive that. Our plan currently is to do as much of it in person as possible. And then for those virtual students, they will be able to attend the virtual instruction, which will be live streamed from our general classrooms to those students' homes if they have the internet access.
Questions?
Those will count towards the 180-day requirement, the virtual.
Yep. We can claim virtual now. They've changed that. So we can claim our virtual students just like we would in person.
Okay, next one, 2021 field trips.
Yep, so we have our list of field trips. It's our normal field trips that we run every year. I haven't seen any major changes in that one. So.
And I'll sit just as fundraisers.
Yep.
Do it if we can.
Yep, it's the same situation. If we can travel, we will. If we don't think it's in the best interest, then we'll have to put those on hold until some of the restrictions are lifted. But again, this just covers us if we would go back to normal.
Moving on, personnel.
Got
Short-term subs.
Yep, we've got a couple of short-term substitute positions. You'll see them listed in the executive content. Both are for 2 different leave periods. So.
B, health and PE teacher update.
So we posted a position in-house into the public, so we're still collecting applicants at this point. We've received 1 who's working on getting their New York certification so that they can get their Pennsylvania certification. It's a recent graduate, so I'll keep you posted on where we're at with that.
Any questions? Going good, thanks. Instructional aid update.
So we have a pre-K position that is posted currently. So we're in the works of making that one happen as well.
Questions? Okay. Secretary vacancy.
We do have some candidates for that one. We'll be checking clearances and finishing up the reference calls this week. Once we get that done, we'll have somebody for you for next week's meeting.
Along with that, the secretary training.
Yep, so we would like to bring our former secretary in for 10 days just to throughout this school year so we can spread it out. That way it would help with some of the PIMS reporting that the person might not be familiar with or some of the other things that come with that office. So it's just to kind of cover us so that they have that resource throughout. Not saying that we'll need the entire thing, but the total cost would be $1443.20 based on our previous secretary's hourly rate.
Any questions on that?
Yep.
All right. Substitute employees.
Yep, we have our normal list of substitutes, so we just need to get that approved so that we can use those to fill in. I'm hoping that we can lock some substitutes in only to our district. That's a possibility. That way we're not sharing with other districts as much as possible to try and prevent the spread, but there's no guarantee there, obviously. We would screen each one of those coming into the building each day just like we would anybody else. So.
List of names there. Are there any questions? All right, let's move on to extracurricular, 2021 extracurricular appointments.
Yep, so we have our golf coach, volleyball assistant coach. They'd like to split that between two at a 50% pay rate for each position, just because of the time commitment for both. And then the intramurals for basketball, elementary intramurals.
Any questions with that one? Next one, 2021 sports schedules.
Again, this is going to approve our traditional schedule, but just know that there's going to be flexibility there based on the PIAA's guidelines that they just put out, and many districts are looking at pushing some of the non-conference competitions back and not doing them at all and just doing the conference ones. We'll see where that goes, but currently what you would be approving is our traditional schedule, so that if we can do that, we can. If not, then we're going to have some flexibility and adapt to that.
Schedules were all attached. Are there any questions? Very good. 2021 Coaches Handbook.
Yep. It was attached. Any questions on the handbook?
Pretty much the same.
Yep, it is.
See much difference.
Granted, that might have to change a little bit now that the Title IX release was just out and some of the mandated trainings that come with that. So if there are, we'll update that and we'll highlight those for you next time.
D, Bolivar Country Club MOU.
Yep. So this is for some of the co-op sports that we do. Nothing has changed from the previous one. I think it's like around $500 for us to be able to use the golf course for the golf team.
Before we move on, is there any questions in that section? Curriculum, personnel, extracurricular. If not, subject C is safety and security. We have a revised school reopening health and safety plan. Anything to share with that?
Just that we've added the mask requirement now. That's the biggest change that we have. For the most part, everything was still the same because what we did when we developed that plan was plan for the worst and kept it fairly general so that we had some flexibility within it. So not much has changed within the plan other than the mask requirement at this point.
Are we going to be providing masks?
So I would love for parents to be able to let their kids provide their own mask because kids are going to put their own touch on that a lot of times. They're going to have to wear a mask on the bus. So from the first day, parents are probably going to have to provide their own masks. There's no way that we can.
I just not like teachers going to have a box if there are some students that want like a bathroom or something like that. They're going to have to.
So I would say if they're not able to wear the mask for the majority of the day, then yes. But I think students should be able to wear that mask from the time they get on the bus to the time they get to school. So I don't see why they would lose it throughout the day. I get it. I get that too. And you've got your Spider-Man mask and I've got my Batman mask and we traded masks at lunch today, right? Because I'm a Batman fan. Right? There's going to be situations like that. We'll address that with the masks that we've purchased. We bought them through co-op pricing. So, but what I would like to see is parents provide as many masks as possible because their students are going to be at a bus stop with other students there. probably not socially distanced. So for us to abide by the guidelines, we're going to need that parent support and that mask aspect alone. So
Well, one of it's locked, so if you lock this one, drop one on the way.
Or some bring one in the backpack, you can back
Right.
up plan.
the extras. Yep.
Probably do a one call periodically just to keep everybody.
Yep. Just a reminder.
Yeah, good. Good job.
Yep.
The COVID-19 update. I don't think there's much.
Just that our plan's been updated with the mask requirement, and the PIAA released that they're not going to allow bands at sporting events. Cheerleading is still a question mark that we haven't had defined yet. The indoor maximum capacity is 25 people, including referees, game workers, the works, everything. So it's going to be a miracle if we can hold a volleyball game and keep 25 people in that. So I'm waiting for either some things to be changed or lifted or what's going to happen. Otherwise, we would have to, we were trying to brainstorm about this throughout the week. I mean, we would have to keep 6 girls on the floor on both sides for volleyball. You figure a scorekeeper, somebody running the clock, 3 referees, 2 line judges, you're almost at 25 right there. So that, right, so we're going to take that outdoors. Like I'm waiting for that to roll through. Are we going to be putting a net over at the basketball court and painting new lines? Who knows, right? Because I guarantee it's going to change again before the start. But that's some of the resistance that is out there right now, is that fans are not allowed to attend the sporting events. So we're trying to think outside the box as much as we can and possibly live stream the athletic events and then sell tickets. It doesn't work great for people that live here, but if you've got grandparents that live in somewhere else, I mean, that's an opportunity that they wouldn't have otherwise. So I think there's positive and negative to it, but we're going to bounce some ideas around and see what we can do. Because we want the public to still be able to participate as much as possible and still be able to see their kids. Trust me when I say I don't like any of the guidelines as much as all of us do, but it's the challenge that's been thrown at us. So.
But the admission tickets is what helps us pay those referees, and we're still going to have to pay the referees. So that is one of the line items that, you know, I didn't think about no game fees, because I thought no game, or no fans, no game. I never thought we'd have a game without fans. I didn't process that far when we were doing the budget. Now I get what they're doing, but so that will be another $16,000 hit to
Between
revenue
16
possibly.
and 20.
Yeah,
But
16
we're
to 20.
saving money because we didn't have supply costs. There's other places we saved when we weren't open, so we didn't provide my students with public supplies for my children.
So I got extra toilet paper.
You know.
Maybe the sports boosters will step up, help out.
You can probably sell like season tickets. Some people just buy a season ticket and they like,
Right.
you know, might not even worry
We do
about
sell
what to
season
do for contributions. So
Yep.
That's something we could possibly do. Relatively easy.
That's,
sell season tickets.
let me find out. We're digging into it. Like I've
We have to
live
make sure
streamed.
that it's-
I've live streamed some events before, but it's going to get tricky selling tickets and credit card information and things like that. Right. So right now, like our lunch accounts are through a third-party vendor that'll take a card number to be able to put money on your lunch account. Right now, we don't have anything like that in place as a district, so it might be a little tricky for us to do that virtually. We're going to dig in and see what we can find out, but that's the goal. There might be some cost to have a third-party vendor come into play there. So then that would help to determine what the cost of tickets would be, plus our fees for referees and things like that. I don't know that it's going to be less expensive. It could be a little more, but we'll keep it as reasonable as we can so that we can at least break even on it is the goal.
I can just see that personally as a parent, I have concerns over my kids playing and not knowing about injuries and stuff like that.
Right.
As this very shared.
I'm with you.
Whether
I
you're
get it.
sitting in the parking lot or whether you're sitting at home.
Right.
Do it.
That's all.
Right. And I know that some people won't have the internet access to attend games. We'll have the wireless open in the parking lots as part of our plan that we talked about, so that if they do want to come and be able to watch virtually from their vehicle, that's an option too, because we know that not everybody has the quality of internet access that they need. But we've got the wireless hotspots outside that we can use.
This is all still up in the air.
Oh, it is.
Oh,
It is
really
completely up in the air.
fine year.
Listen, I'm just throwing an idea out there, and letting you guys know what
Yeah.
I'm trying to think about to
Time.
try and adapt this as much as we can.
Want
Because
you to
they just
have
put this
an
out
idea
Thursday.
About what we're thinking, because, you know, we have so many days before the next meeting. School's gonna start.
All right.
Well, I've only had one cyber school let me know about enrollment, and they were just saying that the same students that were enrolled last year have re-enrolled. They didn't say there was new enrollment, so I have no documentation from the cyber schools, and I don't believe we have documentation of people disenrolling
Oh yeah.
to go to cyber that I have heard of. Doesn't mean it hasn't happened, it just hasn't come across my desk yet.
Good. Very good. Let's go on to reports.
Yep.
Is there anything to add to anyone's report?
What's I'm aware of. Anybody have anything to add to their reports?
Nope, nothing. Just, you know, that as you know, we move on, you might get new updates. Just, you know, the theme of this year is flexibility. So it's going to be an interesting start of the year, and just hang in there and hope everybody's on board.
Yep.
And I would just add that it's been very hectic as far as having conversations with families, conversations calling teachers about schedules and changes, and conversations with folks in other school districts, much more so than in the previous summers, last summer when I was working. So even though it's a different kind of a summer, it's been extremely hectic.
Yeah, for sure.
Linda, there was not a IU9 meeting in
Yeah, there
July,
was one
right?
last time. I think there's gonna be one.
It skips July.
Yep.
Okay. So, how about an update on the lunches? Who can do that, Amy or?
Yeah, so I believe I was there Friday, and I believe we served around 125. Does that sound right?
Yes, it does.
Yep.
Yeah, so we've dropped considerably,
Yep.
but we're still serving enough that it's definitely worthwhile to the community to continue with it.
Mm-hmm.
We did talk about what the end date would be, but we haven't made a decision if we're going to give the staff a week to breathe between the return to school type feeding schedule. I just got back from vacation myself, so I haven't gotten to Sharon to. It was not vacation, but anyway. Got back here.
Your workcation.
My workcation. And but I haven't had a chance to talk with her today to try to get a plan on what she thinks is appropriate from turning her kitchen back into a cooking machine rather than a packaging machine that she's been doing. And I think that makes sense.
It is. It's been a distribution center as opposed to a
Yes.
kitchen.
Yes, it
Yeah.
has. So I
Yep.
think she'll be very glad to be cooking again.
And then the that before and after school program that we had approved, is that something we still want to?
Yeah, so I just
Okay.
talked with them last week. They asked us to put out for a site coordinator for that as a position for them. So they're in the works of getting their paperwork filed through the state of Pennsylvania so that we can hopefully start at the start of school this year. So we're still gonna try and roll forward with that if we can. Obviously, there's restrictions to room capacities and things like that, but we're gonna still try and make that work just like we are with the in-person instruction with the restrictions that we have. So, yep, and we'll be the first school in the state of Pennsylvania to offer that program. So,
They're gonna provide their own sanitizers, cleaning stuff, we're not doing.
correct.
And are they gonna have a room that has an outdoor activity?
Yep.
Good enough having in here.
A lot of their program is outside as well, so weather permits. If the gym is open and the weather doesn't permit, they'll use it. But yep, the majority of it is either in an open space like this or outside. They have the same guidelines they have to follow as we would, so the school's plan would apply to them just as it does to anything else. Yep. So more information will be coming out about that soon. She's working on the entire flyer and the enrollment stuff, all that for us to push out to parents. So that'll be coming soon.
So the board members with children that are in school, Are you getting all this information and you good with what you're seeing? I know that's probably a big dump coming soon of some more stuff, but I'll make sure that we're getting out there for everybody.
There should be letters in the mail personally, because there's times when I don't have internet. Supposedly stuff is being called or something. I don't get that stuff. I know there's other people that don't have internet. I'm right across the street. I'm not getting it all the time, but I don't think there's a lot that's done about it, so.
But I think the one call is going to initiate, and then we can use that very often. Use that often.
Yep.
Probably a lot more than we have in the past.
Right.
If you don't have internet, if they have the same phone as I have, you expect them, that's not what the phone line's not working, so.
Right.
It doesn't really take your phone.
Trent, are you on the meeting right now?
I am.
Do you have Spectrum as an internet service provider?
I do.
Just checking. So sometimes it works, right? Not all the time, but the one call system will actually go to your voicemail and then come back once you get service. So if there is a survey and you didn't get to respond and you want to call, we can address it that way.
Not very when the power's out, I don't have no, other than that, I can go.
Well, come over at my house, I have 480 cable bill, and I don't have the loss.
I think you're gonna send something in the mail that's very simplified about where and when the masks,
The mass requirements,
so that people don't have to read.
pages and pages.
Yeah, pages and pages.
Yep.
The general idea, very clean, very simple.
Yep. So I've got a flyer from the CDC that defines those. It's a one-page flyer with basically it looks like an advertisement. So the next step, I just pulled that last week. The next step is we're going to post that to the website and say, here's your mass requirements. This is what we expect as a district, so we can get that out to parents. So that'll be coming out on social media and everywhere else. So all of our news feeds.
Those things change so quick,
They do.
so many times, that I don't know how you can put it in the mail.
By
By the time it gets to the house, it'll be changed again. Yeah. I like the website idea. We have Facebook
We
too.
do. Yep.
I found it,
We've been posting
found it
stuff
on
to
there.
our social media feeds because that's what gets our hits. On our end, we can see it on the back end. We're getting anywhere from 6,000 to 8,000 hits on things that we're putting on Facebook. Sometimes it's only 3,000, which I get that. But when it's something that people feel is important, we're getting 6,000 to 8,000 hits. So we don't have that many kids in the district.
School Facebook page, a lot of times things are posted by other members of Facebook and information.
I think that's the problem, though, you're posting it on the website. People like me, I don't go to the website, so they always post it.
It's on the Facebook.
And even the Facebook, I'm
But I
not
go to
on
the website all the time. I mean,
So,
very,
yeah, but people, there's other people that don't use the internet.
but what I'm saying,
The women adopting like grandparents and stuff that actually have custody.
Hmm.
So.
Okay.
Other schools are sending them out, so.
Anything else to add? Anybody on the horn got anything? If not, it is 7:38 and we are adjourned. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for joining virtually.